everybody, it's Lori again and welcome back to my kitchen. Canning is not the only way that I preserve food in our home and for our family. I freeze a lot of things, I dehydrate a lot of things, and sometimes I make homemade mixes and things like that, just dry mixes that I can store for easy use whenever I need it. Today I'd like to share a recipe of one of those dry mixes, and what it is a copycat of Rice-A-Roni. Specifically, today's recipe is chicken Rice-A-Roni. And what I do is I mix this up dry, and then I store it in quart-sized canning jars, and it's just really handy for a quick side dish. Sometimes I even make it into a main dish. I add some of my canned chicken to it, and so it's just a nice hot dish, main dish type thing. So I want to show you today how I do this. This is so quick and so simple, and it actually saves you quite a bit of money too. Instead of going out and buying all those little individual packages, you can make this in bulk and really save yourself a lot of money. So the recipe, and I've got some notes, so if you see me looking down, I just want to make sure that I share the proper information with you because I can't remember it all in my head. I still follow recipes too once in a while. So for a single jar, for a quart-sized jar, you're going to need 2 cups of rice, 1 cup of vermicelli pasta or angel hair pasta that will be, you'll bust those into little pieces. Now the vermicelli, I can get this really cheap at like Walmart. It's just little tiny, let's see if you can see it, little tiny, I've got a bay leaf in there to just to keep it fresh and keep the bugs out. Just little tiny broken vermicelli noodles. So you need 2 cups rice, 1 cup of vermicelli or angel hair pasta that you bust up into little pieces, 1/4 cup of dried parsley, 6 tablespoons of chicken bouillon granulars, the powder type, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of thyme. Now with my rice, when I'm buying rice, I usually purchase it in great big bags from like Sam's Club. I buy it in bulk. And generally what I like to do is I like to, and you'll see that I have some on my stove today because I was already preparing this morning. I like to put it in like 9 by 13 pans or on a great big cookie sheet, and I stick that in my oven at 220 degrees for around 20 or 30 minutes. And every once in a while I just stir that dry rice. The reason why I do this is that a lot of times when you buy rice and pasta and flour and things like that, there are already bug eggs and sometimes larvae that you can't see with your eye, but a lot of times that comes in the food that we buy. And so in baking my rice in the oven, it just kind of puts my mind at ease that any of those eggs or larvae have been killed off, and then I don't have to worry about long-term storage. Another way that you can also do that is by sticking your rice or your flour or whatever your dry good is, stick it into the freezer for about 48 hours and then take it out of the freezer and allow it to come to room temperature fully before you then continue on using it. I've heard kills the eggs too, and I do use that method in some things. But today I was kind of in a rush and I didn't prepare my rice ahead of time, and so today I just baked it in the oven, like I said, 220 degrees, just stirred it around every once in a while for about a half hour, and that really just assures me that everything that could have possibly came in that bag of rice has been killed off. So I have my prepared rice, and I have my pasta and all of my spices and things that we put in here. And how I do this, and I'll kind of tip the camera down at this point in time. How I do this is I just measure my things into the quart jar, except for my parsley, because you can see that it gets kind of tall. But now these measurements that I gave you make 1 quart jar. So you have your 1 cup of vermicelli, you have your 2 cups of rice, and then you have your chicken broth and your spices. And I just, for ease of doing it, I do this on a large scale, and so I just line up all my jars in a row and I measure all these things into each jar just for ease. but you can also measure them into a pan or a bowl if you want to do that too. But what I do is I measure all of those things except for my parsley, because the parsley, it gets kind of full and I don't want things kind of dumping out. So I'll just measure my 1/4 cup of parsley at this point in time, and I just dump that into a container. And then I take my other pre-measured items and dump that in there. Make sure you have clean hands, but I just get in here literally with my hands and mix this up really well, just to get all of those spices and the chicken broth and everything kind of distributed through the dry rice and the vermicelli. And oh, that smells good already with that thyme in there, and oh, yummy. We really like this stuff. So after you get that mixed really well, then I take and I just place it right back into my jar. I'll use a funnel here and then just carefully get all of my contents into the jar, trying not to spill. This is kind of why I like to use a square pan, because I can just use that corner of the pan. You know, it kind of holds all the stuff that I'm trying to get into the jar. It kind of directs it down to that one corner, and it's a little easier to get into my funnel that way. Get all those good seasonings and make sure everything that's supposed to go in that jar is in there. At this point, you're pretty much done. Look at how pretty this is with all those spices in there and the rice and the pasta. This stuff is truly delicious. So then what I do, and this is another really great time to reuse canning lids. Whenever I'm storing dry goods in canning jars, I always use used lids. Why waste a brand new lid? And I do have, I won't do it on camera because it gets a little loud, but I do have a vac sealer that has a jar attachment. And what I do is I generally will vacuum seal these dry goods with my my food saver machine and my jar attachment. And that's all there is to it. You have a beautiful, quick and easy side dish. Like I said, sometimes I will also add canned chicken. As I'm cooking this up, I'll add a jar of canned chicken to this, and you have an entire meal. Now in storage, what I do to go ahead and use this, you take and you melt 2 tablespoons of butter in a skillet. You add 1 cup of this mix and stir it in that melted butter. And then you add 2 1/4 cup water, and you bring it to a boil, and then you reduce the heat and simmer it for 15 minutes. So in this entire jar, you actually have 3 recipes of mix, okay? But you can use it just 1 cup at a time. If you only have a couple of people, you really don't need that much to prepare. If you have a larger family, you might use this whole jar, but just remember you have 3 recipes worth of Rice-A-Roni in this jar. In storage, what I do then is after I've got it all mixed up, when I go to store it, I write a little note on how to prepare what's in this jar. So you can see that I have, you know, the directions of melting your butter and adding your mix and your water, and I just tape that to the outside of my jar so that, you know, like if my husband or my son wants to make some of this, the instructions are right there. And if I go months and months in between uses and I forget the instructions, I don't have to look it up in my my cooking binder, my notes. It's just right here on the jar. So this is a wonderful, wonderful idea of how to store this, and just easy to have on hand, really delicious, and quick and easy to prepare for your shelves, and nice to have on hand. So that's all there is to it, guys. You can make a beef version of this if you would like by using granulated beef broth. Another idea that I had was to use powdered cheddar cheese mix and make like a cheese-a-roni type dish. I haven't messed around with that very much yet to see what my measurements would be, but I'm thinking that you would still want your 6 tablespoons. In place of the chicken bouillon powder, you would just replace that with cheese powder, 6 tablespoons of cheese powder, and you could have a cheesy rice-a-roni. But how quick and how simple and how thrifty, just wonderful, wonderful thing that I love to have on hand. Like I said, I will put the recipe down in the description area of today's video. I hope you enjoyed this little shorty today, and I hope you try it and enjoy it in your home too. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.